So I've played. So two other games that I've played, I'll talk a bit more about in length because one's a new game and one's a game that I've picked back up again. So I'll talk about the game that I've picked back up again. Is Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which is why I was speaking
Right.
French because it's a very
I
French game.
see. It is, yeah. I have yet to play that, Pete.
It is absolutely brilliant, but my
And
God, is it a challenge?
I'm saying you don't like RPGs normally.
Not normally, but I'm getting a lot better when it comes to RPGs generally. Anyway,
Right?
it seems to be. I think it was last year where I had the revelation that I played more RPGs than any other game series or
Yeah.
genre.
Which is hilarious.
So I got to a point with Clair Obscur where before I went on holiday, I got a bit stuck. Got stuck on a relatively difficult boss, so it's like, I have to come back to it. So after holiday, I tried again, got stuck again, and then for some reason, I think more videos were coming up on my YouTube feed about Clair Obscur. So it just made me want to go back and play it. It was like, oh yeah, I forgot I actually had a save file on it, so I went back and started playing it again. And my God, is it a test of patience? It is.
Oh no.
It is so difficult.
Not good.
It's so difficult. It makes sense, and I know a lot of people who've turned around and went, I can't play this game anymore. It's too challenging. It's too difficult for me. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to drop the game down to easy mode to feel cheated, but I don't want to carry on with it.
Right.
However, I am at the stage where I'm like, no, I really want to find out what the hell's going on, and I'll feel cheated if I went onto YouTube and watched it. So I'm gonna persevere because I'm now in Act 2. Something happens at the end of Act 1 that absolutely is devastating. I won't say for spoiler reasons, but it's kept me going back to the game. And then, Jesus Christ, you get into Act 2. You have a gut punch, and it throws you into probably one of the most difficult bosses that you can ever find.
Oh.
And
Wow.
this isn't a like an optional challenge. No, this is a story based one. And kid you not, it took me nearly 4 hours to complete it.
Holy crap! That's crazy.
Yeah, because it's a 2-stage boss. So you defeat the first part, and then obviously it comes back in a second stage, and it's a lot more difficult because a lot more patterns to try and recognise and all that. So the main draw of it is obviously it's a trial and error sort of game, sort of like a Soulsborne like in that respect. Where, funnily enough, one of the lead developers on the game actually did say that he was inspired by Bloodborne and Souls-like games for difficulty and challenge.
Great.
Yeah, but I would say that this is fair. It's very fair, but it's also extremely difficult. And it makes sense narratively speaking that everything in this world can and will kill you in one shot. Like, they are ridiculous beings of ridiculous power. So, and you're just human characters. Yeah, okay, the world is filled with like magic and stuff like that, and it's a different take on a French landscape, but it's still very much human characters like facing off against otherworldly beings.
Right.
So it's gonna be tough. But the good thing about it is that every move, apart from I think the odd couple, are either parryable or you can dodge them. And then it just throws in a whole new mechanic in the beginning of the second act. It's like, oh, so now you've got an extra strong parry move that you have to do, where the timing window is even smaller. Thanks. But it is satisfying when you do get it, because it does big damage, which is great.
Right.
So I'm up to probably... Bueno. I wouldn't say I'm halfway through Act 2 yet, but I'm probably about a third of the way through Act 2. I once again came up against another boss that is a main challenge, and holy crap was it hard. And then suddenly just defeated it like quite easily, like after a few attempts at doing it. Annoyingly, my game didn't save, so I had to go and do it again.
Oh no!
Word to the wise. So I found this out the hard way. Do not leave your Xbox on quick resume and then pick it up on a cloud save because it will not find your save when you're in quick resume. So yeah, that's what ruined my save file to that respect. So I had to go back and do the boss again. Yeah. But I did it, and it's fine, and I can continue forth. Yes. But yeah, absolutely loving the game. I think it is probably, and this has been said so many times by so many people already, it is without a doubt probably the highest contender I have for Game of the Year already. It's just such a beautiful game. Like, cool. From a game design aspect, like character, story, and music, it is just unbelievably good, and I'd highly recommend any person who likes a really good JRPG style game to go and play it, because it's excellent. My God, is it a good game? So that was that news story, but I want to read you. So I found this come up on. So you know how Google or Apple or whoever, if you search something, might recommend you some articles based on things that you searched.
Yes, the good old AI.
This one came up because of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on my search history.
Okay. So you don't want to know my search history.
Let me read the title, and then I'll read you some choice excerpts from it.
Okay.
The headline is, "Can we all just be normal about Clair Obscur Expedition 33 for a second?"
Okay.
Okay. So, let me read the opening of this. It might take a little bit, so let's just... And then I can read some bits of it. So, whether or not it actually wins the game... wins the award come December, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is the game of the year. That's an opinion for them. No 2025 release has sparked so many long-lasting conversations usually reserved for tentpole releases like GTA or Zelda.
Really?
Oh, there's been a huge amount of discussion about this game.
I'm out of the loop. I just watched Mind's Eye stuff.
You really are. It has been gaming's main character for months, standing in a shining example of what modern video game should rise to be.
Holy crap.
Yet all the mainstream conversations that is generated, so few of them actually seem interested in Clair Obscur. Instead, Samful Interactive's critically acclaimed RPG has been submitted as evidence in an ongoing litigations against what gamers paint as a stale industry in need of new blood.
Okay.
I'm getting to it. While there are some meaningful conversations to have about what game studios can learn from Clair Obscur, the way that it has been weaponized and reduced to a piece of confirmation bias in any landscape-shaping argument it fits into leaves me hungry for more substantial dissections of the games we love. Obviously, this is an opinion piece.
Right, yes.
It was clear that Clair Obscur was going to be a big talking point when it launched in April to a wave of glowing reviews. Critics and fans hailed it as a generational RPG that revitalised turn-based combat, delivered an emotional story, and crafted an astonishing original work. Quote, "Game of the Year talk came fast, which is par for the course when a new game breaks the 90 mark on Metacritic. But the water cooler chats don't stop there. Soon, mainstream conversations yearn to place it in a broader gaming landscape. Its originality was painted as a shining light in the sea of perceived AAA slop. It wasn't just a good game, but a blueprint for how a boring industry could be saved. Even this very site op-ed about that immediately following its release."
That's insane.
So
that is insane.
I want to read a few choice bits about it because I think that I have to agree with some, but I also think they're off the pace with some of this as well. Nana says, "I agree with this so much. The amount of reels that I have seen using Expedition 33 just being used to shit on the state of the modern Final Fantasy is awful." I wouldn't just say modern Final Fantasy, I'd say modern video game development.
Okay, maybe I should play this game.
Let me get into the reason why behind this. Because it has been, and this is just solely me saying this, it was noted that actually that Sandfall Interactive are a very, very small team of people in Montpellier, France, If you want to know more about them, I'd actually highly recommend Skill Up's video, which was nearly 2 hours long, which was a full deep dive into it. He interviewed developers, the creators, like the main people who are part of the studio, the voice actors, everything.
Oh, wow.
And it's a really, really good video. But it is well known that there is only about 30-ish main developers that actually worked on the game, which is now being misconstrued because a lot of people are now trying to run cover for it, saying, but it had about 400 people working on it in total, because the game was published by Kepler Interactive, who are a team of other game developers, including Slowclap, who assist on other projects, including QA testing and stuff like that as well. So the main bulk of people that have worked on it is around 400 people, but the core development team is around 34 people.
Right, okay.
Including those who originally are freelancers working in animation. The game originally started out as only one person's creative idea, who then brought on a few full-time members of staff when he pitched it to them and needed help.
Right.
These people had worked... Some of these people had worked in game development before.
Yeah, because there's some Ubisoft people there.
But never actually in an official director's capacity, and mainly had worked in other departments. The person who wrote the story for this had never had a piece of work published in their life.
Okay.
Yeah, which is why I said go and watch the Skill Up video on this, because it is a very, very interesting story.
Right. I'm already intrigued.
Yeah, so the fact that more than 30 people have made this game, and it is an expansive open world turn-based RPG that looks absolutely gorgeous, is ridiculous.
Man, I do need to play it.
Anyway, so to continue on with the article, I just wanted to give some background. It says that over the top idea only ballooned as months went on. Sandfall Interactive's slim team size became a talking point. Articles popped up that praised the studio for creating such an accomplished game with only 30 plus people. A figure that was quickly debunked once critics started adding up the external developers involved, and also takes a bit of a pot shot at Jeff Kiley by mentioning how many people worked on this game, and then subsequently, when announcing other games by small studios, saying how many people have worked on it. Like, this game was made by one person, or this was made by a very small team. The writer of the article says, my growing frustration with the trend reached a boil this week, thanks to a different debate that Clair Obscur had been unwittingly roped into. For years now, some RPG enthusiasts have lamented the death of turn-based games. That anxiety seems to come most from franchises like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest implementing more real-time action. Clair Obscur is a loud and proud turn-based game, which made it the perfect spoiler candidate for an industry abandoning a classic way of play. Never mind the fact that turn-based gaming hasn't gone away, with games like Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor ReFantasio all have proved that major studios are still very much invested in the subgenre.
That is true. That is true.
And yet the narrative persisted. It all came to a head during Square Enix Investors Call, in which the company reaffirmed its commitment to turn-based games and acknowledged Clair Obscur's existence in the process. According to Automaton, those typical business responses were mistranslated and blown out into a larger story. Clair Obscur's success had convinced Square Enix to start making more turn-based games. Finally, the video game industry was saved, mission accomplished. Quote.
Right.
Every conversation like this is riddled with holes that you couldn't get them across a puddle, and yet are inescapable. Fans want to prove their long-standing theories about the video game industry right, and treat its success like an irrefutable data point in every argument. It's not a new phenomenon either. This cycle tends to happen with both successes and failure. Baldur's Gate 3 inspired a wave of talking points about what players actually wanted from games. The line of speaking was met with backlash from developers who cautioned against using a very specific win as a crusade. Such games such as Black Myth Wukong become a rejection of Western ideology, and Concord was viewed as proof that live service games are dead. This is where I think he misses the mark completely on this article. I think Concord was nothing to do with the fact that it was that live service games are dead, because live service games are still alive. It was the fact that it chased a live service game when the time window for everyone to play a live service game is so limited. When a game like Fortnite, PUBG, or things like that exist, it's so hard to break into. And when you spend $400 million and it flops within its first week, and even before with its alpha, and people were so unconvinced by its mechanics and its incredibly terrible game design and character design, that's where I think this article completely misses the mark.
Yeah, because I mean, like, Helldivers isn't necessarily live service, but
it is a live service game. There is a lot of microtransactions in there. There's always something. There is always something to do, and there is a constant, ongoing war as well.
Yeah.
There is essentially it's not a typical live service game, but it is a live service game.
Well, that disproves his point right away. Like, bam.
Yeah. So he goes on to go, I both understand where this comes from, because I'm guilty of it. As guilty of it as anyone. He then goes into a big spiel about talking about American football, and I don't know why it veers off into the tangent.
Okay, yes, that's very weird.
So, as harmless as that can be in small quantities, its forced nature has become unbearable when trying to navigate conversations about Clair Obscur. It's not enough for the game to be a great game. It has to be a masterpiece. It has to be a counterpoint to everything we don't like. It has to be the saviour of the RPG genre. What's ironic is that none of those hollow platitudes actually tell us anything about the game itself. Engagement with what Clair Obscur actually has to tell us has taken a backseat to imperfect armchair analysis.
I mean, but that's what...
No, I actually am going to very much disagree about this.
Yeah,
I have seen a lot of different discussions about it. I have heard a lot of discussions about how people are saying that, oh yes, this shows that you can create a game with a limited budget and a small team, and it doesn't have to be the same typical AAA slot that we're coming out with. But I've heard more discussions about how great the game looks, how incredible the story is, and how brilliant the soundtrack is. And most conversations have all been, this is a game that you should play, and most people would probably love it, even if you don't love an RPG. Because it is a very, very well-made video game. Also note as well, the composer had only ever made music and put them on like a really obscure page, had never actually composed... and never composed a soundtrack ever.
I did read that not too long ago.
And it's a brilliant soundtrack, by the way. It's very French.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many other games that have come out even this year that have less people working on them. Like, actual teams of 3.
Yeah.
That would be a better example. Nothing against Clair Obscur. I have not played it. I think I need to. It sounds like
I think you definitely should, because I think you gel with quite a lot of these characters as well.
Yeah, I love story-heavy, narrative-heavy games.
My God, you would absolutely love this. Honestly, the first hour is absolutely devastating in its own right as well.
Really?
Well, let's just say that, what was it? Clair Obscur actually does roughly translate to Twilight, or something like that. But the original tech demo of the game was called We Lost.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I might have to.
So the game, I'm not going to go into much detail, but there is a constant theme of loss and losing as a whole.
Great.
Not only as like a party, but as a society in general.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Like, I really want you to play it and come back to me and tell me what you think about that first hour. There aren't many games that get me, but that first hour I was a bit devastated with. I was like,
ooh, see, I like that. I like that.
And considering it's the first hour of the game, you're literally only just setting up your protagonist, and it is a character that has no revelation in the story whatsoever. It's like, oh my god.
Well, that might have to go on the schedule. Mike says, talking about live service, you have to offer something that the other live service games don't. Don't make another Fortnite, Fall Guys, or Helldivers. Make a game that stands out from the crowd rather than just another clone. I absolutely agree. And that is that game that I've just blanked out. Splitgate. Mm-hmm. Splitgate, I'm talking
and Splitgate 2, yeah.
Well, Splitgate 2, that's what I really need to say. Never composed a soundtrack. Sounds familiar. Koji Kondo, perhaps? Really?
Yeah. Hadn't until he done, obviously, his soundtrack. But what I meant is
didn't realize
he'd never conducted a score before.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Anyway, so carrying on with the article itself. It says... That's a shame because there's meat on the bones. Clair Obscur asks us to think about how we, as a species, push on in the face of mass grief. Which is what I was getting to. I'm not going any more into that because...
it's calling to me.
But I wanted to read this point because actually there was a reason behind why I laughed at this article towards the end of it. But and I will get to my general thoughts about what I felt about this article as a whole anyway. Perhaps that's just as much reason why Clair Obscur is resonating with players as the fact that it's a turn-based or made by an indie studio. There's a familiar trauma in it as the fictional gamage, which is something you won't understand until you play the game. And its impact on the world can be connected to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, they managed to put in a freaking pandemic discussion into this. And I don't know how.
I just finished watching Sweet Tooth. And I believe it. Because Sweet Tooth is based on that.
Anyway, so I'll just read the last bit of this paragraph itself. We just went through and are still going through a period of mass suffering. Those wounds are fresh. I still remember seeing the pop-up morgues on the streets of Brooklyn. I remember watching the infection rates rise and rates fall and then spike again, ripping any hope I had of an ending for me. I remember how hopeless it all felt. But I also remember how many people put in hard work to stop it together. Even if people refused to do their part, many masked, many stayed home and kept 6 feet apart. And anything else they could to stop the spread. It was a collective effort built on selfless sacrifice.
Yes.
I feel all that fueling Clair Obscur's emotional resonance. It begs to be discussed because what is the point of something being a generational classic if we take nothing else from it? So that's where I'm leaving it because I actually think that was probably a more fitting way to finish it rather than the 3 extra paragraphs he also had on top of it.
Yes.
So,
I agree.
Actually, I could read the last bit. It says, if you love Clair Obscur, really talk about it. Not what it represents, but the actual game in front of you. If you find that you don't have nearly as much to say about it as you do its influence, maybe it's worth questioning whether you love the game or just the idea of it.
Interesting. That might be too deep, but interesting.
I don't disagree with them, but I also don't necessarily completely agree. I think that you can do both. I think you can discuss the game's themes and its story, but you can also discuss the lessons learned about this game. Yeah. How you don't necessarily need a team of 400 people and a massively inflated budget to create a success. It can be done on a smaller budget with a small series of investors and a very good developer behind them. That's all. True. So long as you have the support of the people behind you, then you should be able to make it. The reason why this person who was in Ubisoft felt that they took it away from them and created their own studio rather than pitching it to Ubisoft was because they said this game would have taken at least 10 years to be made because they would require you to be in a management position to even be able to pitch this in the first place. They don't take creative ideas from people smaller down in the company. And I have reflected on this on numerous occasions in the past where we have lost the art of the AAA, or not the AAA game, the AA game or the single A game. Those smaller titles that you release in between your big AAA games that have a smaller budget that hopefully maximise profits that can then be utilised on a bigger project. Rather than constantly developing big budget games at a loss, hoping to sell millions, and it doesn't engage with an audience.
Yeah.
Which is why I said you can learn from this, but you can also... You can take the lessons away, but you can also discuss the game itself. Because I have done both. I have discussed the importance of the game, because I feel like it is a very important game this year because of its themes, its story, its acting, and its soundtrack. Just as a game package in total, it is probably one of my favourite games that I have played in a long time. But I can also discuss the absolute importance of what it means as video game developers and how it should be portrayed to other... It should be portrayed as a cautionary tale to other developers not to overinflate their budgets too much, because we will see a crash eventually if we don't.
Yep, I agree with that.
So yeah, I brought this article up because it's an interesting discussion.
It is.
And actually, for a digital trends article, I didn't think it was completely terrible either.
Yeah. I was going to say, and Mike says, and on that bombshell, it's time to end the show.
That is correct. And also, yes, you are right. Andy Serkis does do a voice in this, of a character in this. I recently just done his boss fight, which is one of the ones I got stuck on. It is horrific.
That's funny.
But it was another one of those situations. I was like, yes, I won. I've done something good. And then it absolutely ripped my heart out in the cutscene afterwards. I was like, no.
Oh, no. I have to watch then. I have to play. Oh, goodness.
You
All right.
have to, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And with that said, let's end the show.